Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and we live in interesting times. Wanted to play you this clip. These are both Bitcoin maxis, this Nick Carter guy and Anthony Pompliano, but the things that are being said here do make sense about the economy overall. Listen.
I think they are in a really tight spot here. Fundamentally, if you zoom out a little bit, the Fed can't raise rates to whip inflation here without basically bankrupting everything. There is so much debt in the system, both of the sovereign and the...
I believe that they're intentionally trying to bankrupt the system. We're now sitting here with a president that they're calling the second coming of Jimmy Carter, and that's not me saying it, that's Jim Cramer saying it. Okay? We got a guy, we've got all these high gas prices, and he won't even look for oil in our own country. We've got some major issues, and at some point you have to ask yourself if it's being done intentionally.
Level that if you allow rates to rise, people become insolvent really quickly. And you could say crypto is a canary in the coal mine there. So if you look back at the 1970s, when was the last time we had inflation this bad, Paul Volcker raised rates to 20% or thereabouts. And that was a contributing factor in, containing inflation. Now, if you raise rates to 5%, the U.S. government would default, right? Because our debt to GDP ratio is 120 as opposed to 30 as it was back then. And our deficit is around 7% this year as opposed to 2-3% as it was back then. So the system cannot tolerate rising interest rates. So I don't actually believe that the Fed can sort of carry out their stated agenda. I know they're talking really tough and they're posturing, but I think what's actually in store for us is something more like yield curve control, which we're seeing in Japan right now, where you're capping yields at a very low rate and you're printing unlimited amounts of fiat in order to cap those yields. Because I don't think there's appetite for cutting entitlement spending or defense spending or anything like that. So austerity's out of the picture.
Anyway, look, they are raising interest rates, though. Look at this. In a widely anticipated move, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 75 basis points. Bitcoin was down 5.3% in minutes since the decision, okay? And this is why, look, folks, Bitcoin's getting murdered. Everything is getting killed right now, but I can tell you this. Bitcoin is no gold. And this is iTrustCapital. They've got it now where you can buy gold on the blockchain through an IRA.
Technology intersects with gold and silver? Well, you're in the right place. Blockchains are digital, which means anything physical that is...
All right, I'm not going to play the rest of that, but they have gold and silver that's on the blockchain that you can buy inside of your iTrustCapital IRA. That's in my description. And then I keep telling you about my sponsor, Glint. Glint, I'm buying gold inside of that's outside of my IRA, but it's spendable gold. And so I'm using this personally right now. That link will be in the top of the description. And then we have Michael Saylor, who has come out of the shadows. Listen up.
Look to just start off on, we just said it. I think it's 129,000 roughly. Coin average price of 30,700. Spent about $4 billion on it. One would anticipate if the price stays where it is, that's going to cause a significant write-down overall. At least your auditors may ask for that. You've talked for years about the financial flexibility owning all that Bitcoin gives you. I wonder if you believe it also works in reverse.
No, I think it's been a net positive. We back-tested our strategy against every other alternative. And if you roll the clock back to August 10th of 2020 when we embarked on this journey, Bitcoin's performed 10x better than anything else. Gold's down 10%, NASDAQ is flat, Bitcoin is up 86% since that time. Over any time frame, 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, Bitcoin's the best performing.
Okay, we're not going to listen to any more of that bunk, but I will show you this because this guy's smart. He was on CNBC today. Listen to this.
You know, Sam, you have not liked Bitcoin. You've been a bear on it, and we're watching Bitcoin come back down. That was part of the bubble that kind of built up from all the liquidity that was out there. When it drops like this, when it's down closer to $21,000, do you like it anymore, or is this something you stay away from at all costs?
Well, I think I basically stayed away from Bitcoin at all costs for the simple reason that I do not understand it. I do not understand its security. I think that when it's all said and done, any kind of currency without the backing of a government in some fashion is unlikely to work. I don't understand all the losses that have occurred where Bitcoins have been siphoned out of institutions, and consequently, I've not participated, and I've been very, very critical of it and continue to be so. I think that Bitcoin at 21 is cheaper than it was at 40, but it ain't cheap.
It was never Bitcoin, folks. Now, let's do a refresh on this. This is John Deaton, another clip from John Deaton's panel that he did last night.
Let me ask, I want to bring Ellie on this. Ellie, and if you can't answer a question, feel free to tell me you can't answer. But we're sitting here, we're talking about these emails that went to Bill Hinman. Can you say whether or not you've reached out to Bill Hinman for comment? Has there been a comment? Are you privy to share any of that?
I can't share who I've talked to because I talked to a lot of people off the record, but I will tell you that we reached out to every single person involved in this opus that Charlie and I wrote, every single person that we've been talking about, and they were okay with what we printed back in November. So can't say yes or no, but
I understand. But as far as I know, Bill Hinman has never come out to correct any of these things, allegations that I've made where I haven't accused him of violating a crime. I said maybe he violated Title V, maybe he was in violation of the criminal conflict laws of the United States, but to my knowledge, he hasn't come out. And so Jay Clayton was asked a question about, this, and he said, I can't talk about ongoing case. And I want to make this clear to everyone out there. There is no ongoing case about the ethics in the Ripple case. They're not litigating the conflicts of interest of Bill Hinman. So it is possible for Bill Hinman, for example, to come on record and say, this is what happened. I don't believe I violated any ethics. I screened my speech with the ethics office. I had them screen it before. I submitted it before. They didn't come back to me. There's none of that. You're not aware of any comments like that where he refutes any of this, are you?
No. And I almost wonder if maybe the SEC lawyers are telling him just not to say anything because they think maybe it'll mess up their defense. Because, obviously they went in saying, this is your personal opinion. He's in his deposition on record saying, this is my personal opinion. But now the SEC lawyers are doing 180 saying, actually, it was the opinion of corporation finance. I will say I've talked to a few insiders at the SEC who knew Bill personally, and they've told me that lovely guy, and obviously they're going to tell me that, but he also is just very kind of by the book, and they told me this. So he is a straight shooter.
Which book are you talking about? The Ether book?
The Ether book. That's a good line. All right. Then we've got this from BitBoy. Today we will begin the process of bringing a class action lawsuit against Celsius Network and Alex Mashitsky. More details in coming days. I think that BitBoy must have had a lot of his holdings on Celsius is what I'm thinking there. I don't know. I hadn't been listening. But, okay, and then we had this. Now, the two guys from Perkins Coie that have been in blockchain from early on, two guys that are kind of partners with each other. They've shown up together. One of them is Lowell Ness, who is the same guy who represented Andreessen Horowitz and wrote the safe harbor memo that became the Ethereum free pass. And his partner was Dax Hansen. Both of them have been nowhere to be found until the anniversary of the Bill Hinman speech, and Dax Hansen was on stage right here. Watch this.
Well, see, in the crypto blockchain space, the thorniest issue, there's a lot of thorny issues, but the thorniest one is all around securities laws. And unfortunately, federal securities laws. as well as state, but primarily the federal, we have been getting regulation by enforcement as opposed to clear regulation that's written down, but we're pivoting from regulation by enforcement to regulation by court decision. That we have the Ripple case and we have the library case, both of which are being litigated right now, where I hope that we get some outcome, right, that may lead to more normalized rules of the road in the security space, because the alternative is to have the United States continue to be a little bit at the mercy of the rest of the international community, because our securities laws are so broad, it restricts so much, whereas a lot of the folks overseas are catching up and eating our lunch. And so we got to be able to solve that.
Now, I don't remember, maybe they can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, but I don't remember any of these Perkins Coie guys coming out and calling for regulatory clarity. They had their regulatory clarity. In fact, Lowell Ness was behind closed doors talking to the SEC to get Bitcoin and Ethereum regulatory clarity and not anything else. They seemed fine with that. They seemed like that was good. It was all they needed. So why are they here now acting like they care about getting clarity? Here they are together, and there's Lowell Ness. Remember, this is what he said.
Full decentralization, and that's what the Hinman speech, which tracks my memo pretty well, has come out and said. And the Hinman speech has generally said, okay, decentralization, we think, gets both Bitcoin and Ether out of securities law status.
Right, and once they accomplished that, I don't remember any of them being out running around worried about getting regulatory clarity, because they had it for themselves. All right, this is an interesting comment. With all these liquidations from Tipsy Tiger, with all these liquidations nearing, anyone have any idea how much XRP exposure is in this? I've been busy with the SEC versus Ripple, so haven't taken much notice, but I'm assuming because of the lawsuit in the US, not much exposure. This is an interesting reply. That's interesting. If the lawsuit was meant XRP is not exposed to systemic risks, exactly, it's still not immune from all the price action, but if the exposure is minimal, and that would be ironic. Then what that reminded me of, and I decided to put this little string of videos together, watch this.
Is 10 years out on the financial crisis, we still don't have the infrastructure perhaps to prevent the next one. And I think this is where digital assets can really help, because an efficient digital asset can really solve some of the key problems in global liquidity. You know, the world's got trillions and trillions of dollars tied up in liquidity just to get around how clunky the movement of value is around the world. If with a really efficient digital asset, something like XRP, and that's what we believe will be the most efficient, you can now reduce trillions and trillions of capital from being tied up. So you can make those transfers instantly as a bank or as a payment provider or as an enterprise without having to have money pre-positioned all over the world.
The attribute of a healthy liquid market is really resilience, and that is getting at the ability for a market to recover from a significant systemic event.
The governor of a large central bank in Southeast Asia say to me, if customers were using XRapid, which is Ripple's XRP liquidity, it actually reduces systemic risk to a country, a small economy. Let me explain briefly what that means. Today, in order to, if you're a bank in fill-in-blank country, you pre-fund accounts around the world. If you're a small economy and you're pre-funding billions of whatever the local currency is into other accounts, you actually are losing control over those. And when there are currency runs, when there are challenges for local economies, that creates risk, increases the risk systemically. So if you didn't have to pre-fund, but this is an observation that I didn't make, this is an observation that a central banker made to me, that if all of the banks in this particular country used XRapid, the systemic risk would actually go down because they'd have more sovereign control over their own currency.
Now check this out. Turns out that Goldman Gary, crypto legislation could undermine market regulations, Gensler says. So now Gary Gensler is not happy that legislators might get in his way is what it looks like. Watch this.
From the Securities and Exchange Commission point of view, is what we want to do is to continue to protect people in these basic bargains. If you're raising money from the public's anticipating a profit based on your entrepreneurial or other efforts, you've got to make basic disclosures and not mislead them. If you've got some lending or you're giving a return, you may well be an investment company like BlockFi with 670,000 customers. And some of these lending platforms literally have millions of customers, and they're pulling all that together. If you're running yield farming or staking, that's STAKING, but staking, you're offering...
Staking, that's the same thing that Joseph Lubin's bragging about. Ethereum 2.0 is going to be all about staking. And Chris Dixon said it. And Andrew Keys said it. All of them were bragging about it.
You're providing something. And frankly, if I could turn away from the legislation, we don't want to undermine the protections we have in a $100 trillion capital market. We don't want our current stock exchanges, our current mutual funds, our current public companies to sort of inadvertently, by a stroke of a pen, say, you know what, I want to be non-compliant as well. I want to...
Let me translate this for you. Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan have put their faith in me. I told them that I was their man and that I could get this done. And we don't want that to be undermined by Congress getting involved. There is a translation. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family it is utility stupid. All of these run-ups and rundowns that you've experienced to this point in crypto are about speculation. At some point, it's not going to be about speculation anymore. And all of these digital assets that don't have any utility are going to be caught with their pants down.